was buried down deep in there.
Is it okay now? Okay.
Good morning. Welcome into Wingin' It Wednesday. Our panelists are all here.
You can have a seat if you like.
Well, I'm doing some last-minute technical stuff. There's no dedicated engineer to this show, if you haven't realized yet. It's me.
Oh, okay.
You're so pretty.
Okay.
So anyways, okay, I think we just pick up on the conversation where we started. Obviously, ABC cancels Roseanne last night after being behind it up until yesterday morning, apparently, renewing it for 2 more seasons after the first episode. It was obviously the number 1 show on TV. So, Warren, we'll start with you. Is this just kind of the age we live in, or do people really need to be careful of social media and what they say and what people take offense to?
A little bit of yes and yes. ABC's got has a right to fire and hire whom they please, I guess. What she tweeted, what I saw that she tweeted, it was certainly not good. The thing she put in there about the Muslim Brotherhood, it's just because she is a Muslim and her father was Iranian and whatever. And
her father was black. We actually have research.
Her father was black. Her
both
mother,
black. No, both black.
They were both African American, is what we found out this morning.
All right, well, who is the Iranian?
He was a doctor
in Iran.
Yeah, he was a doctor, part of an American program in Iran.
Yeah.
She has no Iranian blood in her.
Not from what we can tell.
Not from what we can tell.
Okay, well, that makes no difference one way or the other, but she is Muslim, I understand. And she is running the throw Trump out of office campaign or whatever with Barack Obama. And I know that's well and good, but it's still not reason to attack her the way they did. But then they brought up the thing about the planet of the apes, and I heard on radio coming in here where somebody referred to Trump as an orangutan. And so why would the ape deal be offensive? And he said, well, because that, blah, blah, blah. Well, let's look at this. When you start talking about apes, are apes more like African Americans, or they have more Caucasian features? And if you really sit down and look at it, they have more Caucasian features. They got straight hair. They got thin lips.
But historically, I
don't care about his story. I'm just talking about that. That's the political correctness. That's what people believe, and it's sad that we're in that realm. But if ABC wants to fire her, so be it. We've gotten into this thing where people are calling each other names over and over and over, and it is sad. I try not to do that stuff. Like I haven't forwarded any of those emails that were racially charged or anything else. I don't think in decades since it started, because some of them, they were just so over the top and whatever, and that, it's just offensive to somebody. And so, but look, ABC offends me. I quit watching them back when Peter Jennings was on there, and the things that he said, which were just so offensive, but I don't watch any of those major networks. I get my news from YouTube, from the internet.
Well,
I get my news from people. I get my news from talk radio, and where I can turn around and go online and vet it. If something happens in Iran that I want to know what happens, I go online, find somebody over there, and send them a message. What's going on? You can get some pretty good dialogue going. And somebody, I'm sure that there's enough money out there that they can pick up Roseanne's show if they want to, or call it something else, but they can take it and run with it.
Carol, you have been in the business of managing entities and what people think of them and what they're associated with and how that matters to their business. Did ABC even have a choice? I will say this, too, because I want you to weigh on this. In the break, we got an email, I'm not even sure if Bernie saw it yet, where they said, maybe the best thing to do, because Roseanne tackled such hard issues, let that be a storyline that Roseanne, the housewife on the show, tweeted comparing a black person to an ape. And then let the show be written around why that's wrong. Same with the Muslim neighbors across the street that they had on the show. Your thoughts on all this?
Well, first of all, let me say that as many people have said over and over again, there is a double standard. But I will say I don't mind the double standard. I don't mind being held to a higher standard. I've heard the most horrendous things come out of the mouths of left-wingers about Trump, and they get praised. I remember the time Alec Baldwin jumped up and down on the chair on the Tonight Show, screaming, "Let's hang Henry Hyde and kill Henry Hyde and kill all." That has been said over and over again. We expect them to be deranged, But it's even worse now about Trump. So I think that Roseanne, in reaction to that, has said some really, questionable things. However, ABC does have a right, absolutely has a right to fire. Just as the NFL owners had a right to sanction their players, but what did they do? They weaseled out. So here's the old thing. What if a tree falls in the forest and nobody knows that, okay, there's a protest in the locker room. Are they putting cameras in the locker room? Nobody's going to know if there's a protest in the locker room. But it got the owners out from under. You see what I'm saying? ABC didn't quite have that luxury. I'm totally against censorship for any reason. However, every corporation has a right to decide what is right for their brand. And ABC is a brand just like any others. And she, by the way, I was doing some research on the president, Dungji of ABC, who is very quick, but she has also bounced episodes of Blackish because of the NFL protest. So she didn't take them off the air or that kind of thing. But this was pretty egregious, I have to say. That was an abhorrent comment, and it wasn't even funny. It wasn't even funny. I mean, so why do you do that? Why you put all those people out of work? You're riding high. You could have done it. You could have ridden it forever. I mean, it's really sad.
I was telling Bernie, it's like without this one tweet,
right?
It could have, just the ratings alone, despite what anyone thought about Roseanne,
now,
the ratings alone.
You're right about the part about a teachable moment, because in this story about Dungji, she's the president of ABC Entertainment, and she is a black woman. And at one time, she was talking about, there was one of the programs where they were falling asleep while watching television, right? And so Dan says, we missed all the shows about black and Asian families, referring to ABC's Blackish and Fresh Off the Boat. And Roseanne responded, well, they're just like us. Now you're caught up.
Wow. Stafford.
The real victim here is Jackie.
And Jackie.
I saw that on your Facebook and made me laugh right out loud.
Yeah. Jackie, who couldn't get work doing anything else, was finally like, I can pay my bills again. And Roseanne had to come along and just screw it up. Look, ABC's owned by Disney. They care about their image. Roseanne is a racist. She said racist things in the past that she had to delete off of and look, if you do it in the name of provocation, or you can do it in the name of, I'm a stand-up comedian and I'm trying to be provocative, there are times where you can cross the line. I generally side with the side of, hey, it was a really bad attempt of trying to be funny. But Roseanne Barr throws out conspiracy theories all the time. She supported she believed that Pizzagate was a real thing and that the Democrats were running a child sex ring in a place that had a basement that didn't exist. And she throws out these crazy things. She's nuts. And I think ABC kind of sat back and said, hey, we can see an opportunity to make money in rebooting this.
We need to beat CBS.
We need to beat CBS. Exactly. Let's do something out there. And they invested in it. And it ended up with egg on their face.
And
right?
It was a good show.
I didn't watch it.
It was good.
I liked it.
I wish her the best. I think that her career's done. I mean, I don't know who's going to pick her up.
Warren, you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, you mentioned Disney owns them. Is Disney still, one of their subsidiaries, still the second largest producer of porn in the world, behind Larry Flint? So I'm surprised.
Wait, what?
I've never heard that, but
you haven't. Hey, where have you been in media?
He believes in Uranium One. Remember that.
Well, okay.
Let's get his news from YouTube.
Before we go to that, let's go to the phones. 232.
Wait.
Well, no,
really?
let's back up.
We're going to walk over the. What are you talking about? I'm sorry.
Back several years ago, when the porn industry started really taking off, and with the VHS tapes and all that kind of such stuff, people said, "Hell, there's money in this." CBS had a subsidiary that produces porn. Disney bought a subsidiary that does that, and several others did. And Disney's wound up the number 2 producer of porn behind only Larry Flint's, whatever they call that.
His enterprise.
Flint Publication or whatever.
I'm not Googling
Have you looked
that.
it up?
I'm not Googling.
Oh,
well, I don't know why
Carol,
you're laughing.
Carol set off all sorts of red flags over here, but we are Googling.
Did you not say that on the air?
Oh, no. Carol, we got to hold on. Let's go to the phones, Bernie, and then we'll figure out how we can handle this. 232-1542. Good morning. You're on Wingin' It Wednesday. Go ahead with your comments.
Good morning. What a topic, huh? I tell you, I'm offended almost every day by the left out of Hollywood. And I think there is a double standard. Now, I did hear her apology. I didn't think what she said was necessarily right either, but sound like children in the play yard. I mean, she's about as vindictive towards liberals as liberals are towards conservatives. But I hear this trash every day, just filthy nonsense. I don't watch CNN and most of the major news. I just don't. Because what I hear coming out of them, what offends me most is they lie all the time. Trump named it fake news, and it's the truth. They are fake news. And the stuff coming from the left is way worse than what Roseanne spit out yesterday. But anyway, that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're kind of talking
out
out there about the difference between something that's just offensive and something that's in the category of racist, and where the red line is, and you know, obviously
232-1542.
Yeah, no,
and
absolutely.
People can give their opinion.
I think this goes back to what I've said before, is that people are looking for ways to be offended, and at times it is tough to distinguish that line between things that, as a community, we should say no to, and things that are actually offensive. And I hear the argument the guy made all the time.
But isn't it relative?
It is relative. It's very relative. But I hear all the time, look, people say dumb things about the president. People say dumb things about Valerie Jarrett. People say dumb things and so on and so forth. But you can say, look, Valerie Jarrett's not a Muslim, but he can go and say that she's a Muslim, and I'm not going to say that that's very offensive, right? But if you say that she looks like an ape, I'm going to say that's racist, and that's across the line where the proverbial line that I draw, right?
Well, I would say it's a good-looking ape.
Oh, yeah.
Because Valerie Jarrett is a nice-looking woman.
I think we need to get a quick break in.
Yeah, probably.
Can we get one call before we go,
Let's take one more
though?
call to end this segment. 232-1542. Go ahead.
Man, I tell you what, the Roseanne show, man, that was really, really good. That was a really good show. They were touching base on things on everybody from across the country, about the floods, FEMA. They couldn't make the house payment, stuff like that. Yeah, opioid
Healthcare
addiction. They were going to grab an audience that people can't grab audiences anymore. I think they should have let the Roseanne thing just completely go, and make her apologize, and she apologized on her own. And I think she really feel sorry about it, because she said it was more of a political joke. I didn't see the politics in that. But there's someone else who still works for ABC. I just seen this morning, who wrote a big old thing about Donald Trump being a Nazi and a whole bunch of curse words, a big, long tweet about him being a Nazi. And he still works for ABC.
Right. You got a problem anytime you compare anybody to a Nazi or Hitler. Come on. But just to get back to the Disney
so Carol
porn
has
thing.
been expertly Googling over here about Disney and porn.
Yeah, well, they own...
But don't Google Disney porn.
They own
37
point... Yeah, it really does. Just all the stuff that help you do porn. Disney owns 37.5%. 37.5% of the A&E television networks, which in turn owns A&E History Channels. They also they do programs, the Playboy Mansion. They air Howard Stern. Oh my God. And Anna Nicole Show, Playboy, Playmate Specials, Hollywood Story. Let's see, a bunch of other stuff too. Wild Girls, Girls Gone Wild. Yeah.
What?
Wild On.
I don't know that it's necessarily the second largest porn producer.
According to 60 Minutes a few years ago. It was.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break.
I'm
We need
gonna
to
go look that
get
up.
some spots in, and then we're going to come back and talk about the other Disney story, and that is what's happening to the theme park in Baton Rouge.
But
you said Roseanne's commenting
she's
this morning.
Still going. She got back on Twitter this morning and is like retweeting a bunch of racist memes right now.
So I saw the thing about Ambien, but anyway, all right, Roseanne, we'll have to see what happens. Let's let this calm down. 7:22
She's
now.
a 9/11 truther
News
too,
Talk,
isn't she?
yes,
Oh,
96.5 KPEL. You guys calm yourself down over in the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab. We have to get through Wingin' It Wednesday.
Yeah.
Here's your weather report. It's going to be sunny and hot today. That's all. All right.
Bring powder.
Okay, can I
It's going to be muggy.
Yes. Okay, so now you know. Go ahead.
Okay, so yesterday in talking about the weekend box office numbers, we were talking about the Disneyfication of the Star Wars franchise. And it just so happened to come out of my mouth about the Disneyfication of the legislature, because it just seems to be just a bunch of nonsense drama storylines that are happening. And it continued yesterday. Carol, there are some people who say we are headed towards a third You know what? You really need to get off this Google page because I am distracted by does Disney do porn? Okay? Anyway.
Well, before the end of this show, I want to know where that article was that said in 2013.
Yeah.
And then we want to talk about his Stafford's Point.
I'm pretty sure Rob's a furry.
A furry?
All right, we got to move on.
Okay.
We got to
Getting
move on.
into some really
they call it
weird.
good Mickey or bad Mickey. And bad Mickey is when you take off the head of your character if you're supposed to be one of the actors in front of a kid because it freaks them out.
Yeah,
you get
really
fired
does.
at Disney for that.
Okay, so let's just we're going to come back to this.
Okay,
I promise.
Well,
but I want to talk about what's going on in the legislature because it looks like we're headed towards a third special session, and I don't know if that's the right place to go, but it seems like the conversation is not necessarily happening. There's a lot of yelling happening and chanting, but. Kara, what do you make of it all?
Well, my feeling is Disney should take over the whole damn government. They know how to run they know how to run an operation.
They do know
Besides
how to make money.
that, it looks like a theme park over there anyway. And all the characters are there, goofy.
They're all bad Mickey, though.
And they're all bad Mickey. No, let me tell you, this was a Pyrrhic victory to get that 1/3 cent passed. Shut up, Bernie. I can see her brain running right now. And we're on the same wavelength.
That's why we call this
It's hard
Wingin'
to concentrate. All right, so yeah, look, I think it was a Pyrrhic victory that they got that 1/3 cent passed because you know what's going to happen. It's going to go to the Senate. And the Senate is going to change it whatever way the governor wants them to change it. But although the last time, they showed a rare bout of independence, and he called their budget pretend, too. He called the House budget pretend budget. He called the Senate budget pretend budget. And I'd say we have a pretend governor because he hasn't done anything substantive since he got in there except tax and tax and tax and spend. Basically, that's it. It's like the Homeboy Shopping Network from from Living Color. I watched a clip from Laugh-In the other night.
Yes.
Okay, so from in Living Color, that's all they know how to do is raise taxes. I think this bought them a temporary reprieve. I know a lot of people are upset with the Republicans who ended up voting for this. I will tell you this, I don't think they had a choice, to be honest with you. I think they could see what was coming from the governor's side. You want 1/3 of a cent, you want 1/2 cent. You're going to get something. So just, brace yourself for this. So they did the 1/3 cent and got it through. But it's going to change. It's not going to be the way it is. And, yeah, could there be another special session? You bet, if this governor digs in his heels. Now, remember, that budget that came out of the House, nobody was happy with it, so it probably was fair. It made the cuts that they really needed to make. It balanced the budget. They did a few, the 1/3 cent. It was, generally speaking, in balance temporarily, but it's not good.
Look, Stafford, it seems like the buzzword for folks specifically writing about the legislature to call things hyper-partisan. But to me, hyper-partisan would be if you have everyone on your side and everyone who's not on your side against you. But there's a huge contingent of Democratic votes in the legislature that aren't going along with this sales tax plan.
Right.
What is the contingency plan if you're the governor?
So I think I keep going back to what I've said before, which is our system in Baton Rouge is broken. We've got Republicans and Democrats making the claim that Republican leadership doesn't want to allow Edwards to get a win. I don't know if that's true, and frankly, I don't care. I'm beyond caring at this point. We've had the same problem for years now, and if the problem is spending, which Republicans have said it's not a revenue problem, it's a spending problem, then address some of the spending, right? Figure out where we're spending too much money and go and address it. But if every time they address spending, it's on TOPS or healthcare, then I got to sit back and go, then the problem for you is spending on education and healthcare.
Seems to be the low-hanging fruit, though.
It's the low-hanging fruit, and it's not constitutionally protected funds, right? Which brings me back to what I've said. It's time for a constitutional convention. We cannot keep operating this way. It's time for us to hit the reset button to rebuild Louisiana infrastructurally, tax-wise, in a way that has worked in other states, right? Look at the states who are doing it right and say, what do we need to do to get there? How do we tax our citizens ethically? How do we spend ethically? How do we stop this fight between parish and Baton Rouge and state that just keeps going on and on and on and costing us money? Mm-hmm. So I encourage any listeners out there, or anybody who listens who's involved with the state legislator, it's time to make the hard decision. Hit the reset button. I would much rather see us go, hey, we're 3% short this year, cut everything by 3%, than keep doing this thing where we constitutionally protect everything and then turn around and hammer things that affect some of our poorest in the state the worst. So,
Warren, I think one of the worst parts about this, it feels like we're already the third special session because we had a special before, a regular, and now we're in the middle of the second special session, is the fact that some people forget what already didn't get accomplished. I heard someone yesterday that said, I know how to fix it all. We need a checkbook bill. And I'm thinking, we talked about this, and it was voted down so quickly, people's heads were spinning. So what is just more time talking about this actually accomplishing, Warren?
Probably nothing. Carol said that it's like the Disney characters up there, and I will agree. And I'm waiting to hear that Mighty Mouse is on the way to come in there and save the day. And that they are like Disney characters, and it reminds me of back when Mickey wanted to divorce Minnie, and he went to his lawyer, which can't go. They won't let me tell the rest of that, but that I was watching a thing on YouTube earlier or yesterday, whatever, about the 10 worst college cities and towns in America. And one of them was number 6, was Baton Rouge. And they were talking about crime rate and this, that, and then talking about the LSU is a great school and a good school, but what it's surrounded by and blah, 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 and all this, that. And then they told all the bad things. I kept waiting for them to talk about the Louisiana legislature and the Louisiana governor, but they didn't bring those things up, which to me is kind of like the worst things you got in Baton Rouge. And it's really a sad state of affair, but Stafford says, they need to quit doing these things they've been doing. And their answer to that is, we've been doing this for 70 years. So
and we've made a lot of money.
So shut up and leave us alone. And, when you just, I still say that they need to open up the budget. And that goes back to the checkbook bill. But we also need to see the budget. What are all of those contracts they got out there? What is it? Thousands of them. Who has them? Where's the money going? That's what people want to know. You keep talking about, well, where are we going to cut? We can't cut anything but higher education and health care. Let the people see where the money's going. That's all we ask.
Just to clarify on something that Warren said, and two things. A, I agree with Carol that if everybody's angry about the budget, then it's probably something that is logical.
Yes.
But I just want to say I disagree with Warren. The budget, while we don't have the checkbook system yet, the budget is open to the public at any point in time. So I don't want to perpetuate this idea that
the contract's open?
You don't have access to it in some way, shape, or form. So I'm with you.
What's your take on the contracts?
I don't have a take on it. I think that if we had personnel and people to do the work, we wouldn't be going out and contracting people nearly as much. That being said, I don't know what percentage of the budget goes to contracted employees. I can tell you from a business perspective, I've seen situations where contracting people makes sense, right? Where you may not have the justification for adding a head count, but if you could go and contract somebody who's very qualified to do the job and who can do it better than training somebody or has institutional knowledge that you don't have time to build, where it makes sense to bring on contractors. That being said, I don't know the specifics of the contracting situation.
All right, hey, Carol, wrap this one up.
All right. Number one, there were some spending cuts along with that third of a cent, 1.33% in spending cuts across the board. So that was tied in to the third of a cent, that the Lance Harris bill. Okay. Over the past 5 years that over the past 2.5 years that this governor has been in office, we've had an increase, about a $5 billion increase in the budget overall. And in just health and the health department, which is the real driver of the deficit because of the expansion of Medicaid, it's a short-sighted thing, but the spending has increased in DHS alone from 9 to 13 billion. Do you think we could make a 10% cut, a 5% cut in that? And there's your deficit right there. The governor this is a problem of the governor's creation through the expansion of Medicaid. I will be having Steve Gardis on this afternoon. Steve has written an article. He has drilled down into these numbers over and over again. I've had him on the show before.
Yeah, because he's talked about the Article 5. Oh. He wants the Constitutional Convention for the whole country, right?
Convention of the States. He's into the Convention of the States. However, on the Medicaid and on the state budget, he has done some incredible research. He is a CPA. He knows how to read those numbers. And he is saying that we're not alone. Medicaid is going to break every state in the country that expanded it because it is not sustainable. Anyway, he'll be on this afternoon in the 3 o'clock hour on the Ross Report.
Okay, cool. We need to move on to another topic. Get some breaks in real quick. It's Wednesday, May 30th, 2018 now at News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Wednesday. All right, the next topic has to do with one of my favorite stories in the news cycle in the last 24 hours, and we're going to get the panelists' thoughts on this. All right, so if you know Jesse Duplantis as the televangelist, you likely have seen him in our area. Many people have known about him for a long time. Well, one of the biggest things that came out this week was a story about him asking for a $54 million jet. He's asking for his would-be or his people who follow him to donate to him, saying that it would be more cost-effective for him to not have to stop to refuel, and that he needs this new, it is called Falcon 7X. And he has some sort of fuel thing that's already on his property, so he can fuel up while he's at home and then fly to the places he needs to go to spread the word. It's been very interesting in this news cycle. So let's start with Stafford on this one. I would love to know what you think.
I think that it's going to be really tough to fit a jet that size through the eye of a needle. And, you know, these guys, I look at Houston, right, and I look at Joel Osteen, which we've all argued about whether or not he opened his church during the flooding. But if you want to look at people who do good things for their community, look at guys like J.J. Watt, who've seen terrible things happen in his community recently, offered to pay for the funerals of the victims of the shooting in Texas. And we need to celebrate these guys who go out and do positive things for each other. I haven't seen a televangelist do many positive things for their community in a very, very, very long time. These guys take money and they ask for seed money. They say, if you send us this money, it'll grow. And it'll grow for you. And what ends up happening is they just siphon money off people who want to believe, who may be in a situation where they hear somebody who's influential and is able to, talk about God on TV and has done so well with it that they're respected and have this large show. If I send them money, maybe it'll affect me. Look, these guys are con men. I would say the majority of them that have these national shows, for the most part, are disingenuous. Some of them to the point that they're con men. And Jesse Duplantis is a con man. If you're going to ask for $54 million to build jets, think about how many homeless people could be taken off the street in New Orleans with $54 million. Think about what was our budget gap this year, right, for the state. Our budget gap at one point was $350 million. That's 20%. I'm sorry, that's 1/7 of our budget gap for a plane so that he doesn't have to refuel. I want to take this step further. I think that the guys like that should be taxed. I don't think they should get their money tax-free anymore. If you're going to turn around and be that kind of criminal, it's time that we look at guys like him and we say, hey, these are guys that should be paying income taxes because they're not running a charity. They're running a business.
All right. Warren, what do you think, sir?
Well, I'm not going to call all of these people con men and all that kind of such stuff because I don't know them. But I'm going to say this, that is one of the reasons why I favor doing away with the income tax totally, corporate and personal, and go to a national retail sales tax or whatever, value-added tax, so all of that stuff does get taxed. And so that everybody becomes a non-profit. And but you pay taxes every time you spend some money. And, Jesse Duplantis, I saw him one time watching something where he was talking about when he got his first jet, that he was driving down the road one day and he looked up and he said, God told me, he said, Jesse, look up. And he said, I looked up and he said there was a corporate jet flying over, and God said, I want you to have one of those. And I said, God, I can't afford that. And he said, but you got faith, don't you? And I said, well, sure I do, but I don't. He said, well, if you got faith, you'll have one. And so he got his first jet then, and so this is the next one he needs to get because God has also told him he needs another jet. Now, who are we to argue with what God wants? And, I'm not going to send him any money, but I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that will. Now, he was talking to somebody, I may have been Kenneth Copeland, talking about why they had to have these jets. And they were talking about, well, if you fly commercial, and Lord knows and when the Lord starts talking to you and you get up and, you start dancing in the aisle and some of these people will look at it and think you're crazy. He said, so you can't do that. But he said, we can do that on our private planes where we can stand up and we can praise God and we can talk to him and we can praise him with uplifted hands and we can do all this other, but you can't do that on a commercial plane. So look, Jesse, if Reverend Jesse, if you need another plane, well, go ahead. I think Cephalo Dollar has something like 10 or 12 of them, I believe, the Atlanta evangelist. And so, but I do agree with one thing is they should not be tax-free entities. But I'm going to also say one other thing, too. It's not just them. It's just about every religion going. If you look around here, the Protestants, the Catholics, and every one of them are building the biggest buildings they can build. They're spending the most money they can spend on something that's a non-returning asset. And then Stafford says, how many schools would that build? How many hospital beds could that fill? Go back and listen to Dwight Eisenhower's farewell address when he talks about the military budget of how many schools you can build for the cost of one bomber and on and on and on.
Carol, your turn. What do you think?
But if you didn't have that bomber to protect your freedom, what would be taught in those schools? Good question. Well, I mean, people can waste their money any way they choose, This is a free enterprise system. People want to waste money sending it to televangelists. I tell you, there's one evangelical group that I have faith in, and that's Billy Graham's group, the Samaritan's Purse, because I have seen them, a national group.
In our area,
that has
too.
done, in our area especially. I mean, they were one of the first people on the ground after the flood. So I have seen them do substantive and good work. As far as the rest of these guys, I mean, but they bring up a good point. As Mr. Copeland said, you think Jesus would be riding around on a donkey today? No, he wants to reach more people, so we're going to have, and he says, if you look at the airlines, I'll tell you the truth, I'm with him on that one. I wish I had a private jet so I didn't have to deal with the airlines today. What a mess. They're a mess, and so he says I'd have to make, I don't know how many stops. I'd have a hard time getting around to do what I want to do. So from that standpoint, they do have a point. Now, if people want to waste their money sending it to televangelists, that's perfectly okay with me. Just, I really want everybody to look at the tax-exempt status of these people. I agree with Warren about that because so many of them really are lining their pockets and doing very little to help other people. Now, there are people who watch them and who do derive benefit from their message. Good for them, That's all well and good.
I got to say,
don't they pay for that airtime?
Yeah, what if they
I believe they do.
They do pay for the airtime.
Yeah, so that also puts into question.
I got to say, one of the biggest fans of Wingin' It Wednesday has done well for himself in this community and has flown private a couple of times and said, hands down, the best part is no security and that you could smoke all the way till right before you get on the stairs to get to the plane, and then they give you a beer when you get on the plane. It's the best.
And let me tell you what, it goes way back. You remember, put your hands on the radio. And you get that benefit, put your hands on the radio.
7:50 now.
Lord will come to you. And that's what I say about Wingin' It Wednesday. And that's what I say about the Ross
No,
Report.
the Lord
you
definitely comes every Wednesday in some form.
Wait, so can we start soliciting donations?
Yeah.
I will take your seed money.
What would you like? All right, let's take a quick break
we
here.
We would like a burrito.
I want a $54 million jet. I want a $540
You want a flying burrito.
jet.
That's what you want, Bernie. You want a flying burrito.
I do. I want it to fly from McDonald's and land right here so I can eat it.
Can we start a GoFundMe page?
What do you want to
Can
fund?
we start a GoFundMe page for Wingin' It Wednesday jet?
I'm sure we can arrange something. All right, 7:50 now at News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
We might raise 45 cents.
The only traffic tie-up still being reported North University at Portland Avenue. That's North University at Portland Avenue. Make sure that you're buckling up and that you're keeping it safe out there today.
Hey, congratulations to friend of the show, And he was my travel partner when I went up to New York for that culinary event. Alex Labatt welcomed his first baby this morning. So congratulations.
Yay!
Congratulations to the happy couple, proud mom, Luke Labatt.
Luke Labatt.
Anyway, I want to talk about Memorial Day because we are graced each and every week by a very proud veteran. And I know that Memorial Day is different, and we get it. We know it's different. Carol expanded on that in her show. But I think it is so great that even though it's 2 days a year, I'm sorry, the veterans need every day we can give them. So even on Memorial Day, Warren, I want to say thanks for your service. And I know you're so proud, and we're so proud of you. So I can just imagine, though, Warren, though, serving overseas, walking in and just saying, you know what, this is all just messed up, in worse language. I'm here to fix it, guys. Sit down. Anyway.
I love it.
So there was kind of the debate back and forth. Warren, how do you feel about the whole Happy Memorial Day thing? A lot of people think it should be a somber day, but I think there was a big conversation that kind of happened saying, no, my best friend was killed in Afghanistan, and he would want us to be with our families and grilling and drinking and everything else.
My platoon at Paris Island in 1966 was platoon number 3082. That's the number they used in the movie Full Metal Jacket, because the writer of that deal and all that was in that platoon. One of the drill instructors from that platoon lives in Lafayette, Louisiana. His name is Ronald P. Guidry. And I told Ron Guidry, the former baseball player, I said, every time I heard your name mentioned or saw it in print, I used to cringe. And so the Marine Ron Guidry and I and another one of the guys from that platoon are friends on Facebook. And Ron put a thing on there the other day that said that, that people would say thanks for your service, and then he said they followed up with Happy Memorial Day, and he said it's really hard for me to understand what it is I'm supposed to be happy about with friends of mine that got sent home in caskets and people are dying and all that, and that, I think that it's a little bit misunderstood that in a way that we, that we change a lot of things. It's just kind of like everybody says, well, we have forgotten the real meaning of Christmas when it comes around to it. Memorial Day is supposed to be a time for mourning, remembering the dead, and blah, blah, blah. So we now turn it into a time of barbecues and get drunk and all that. And, it's just mixed emotions on it. But then again, when people say thanks for your service, I'm kind of reminded of what it was whenever I went to boot camp Paris Island. You said thank you to one of those DIs, and they would say, you don't thank me. I get paid for this. And then they would throw another word in there. And and my point, I guess, is that we got paid for it.
Jack.
We got paid for it, and we also get paid for it every day in knowing what you did, your part.
All right, quickly, Carol and Stafford, have about 2 minutes left.
Okay, which one?
Go ahead. You can go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, well,
Sorry. I was going to make y'all duel.
We did have that long discussion on the show about the incongruity of saying Happy Memorial Day when you're really remembering those who died in defense of our freedoms. So in that way, we are happy that we have those freedoms, and we're deeply grateful to those who made that ultimate sacrifice. But the thing that I wanted to share with everybody this morning is that, obviously, Ronald Reagan, the great communicator, he made a comment at a ceremony, I think it was at Arlington, while he was president. He said it's an odd way to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick, and I get this completely. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise. We see them as something like the Founding Fathers, grave and gray-haired, but most of them were boys when they died. They gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived.
Wow.
It just gets to me every time I read that quote, and I think about that, and we were there Monday morning to see off the veterans going up in the Heroes Flight.
Yeah.
And I tell you, that's the way we picture them, because the average age, you know what the average age of those guys is? 93. This is the average age of the 40 veterans who were going up there. And so I do think because we project what they looked like then as what they look like now. And so we have to remember that.
All right, Stafford, wrap this one up for us.
I hope everybody enjoyed their Memorial Day.
That's great. Caleb Morse, by the way, Firearms Friday host, our contributor, he texted in during the segment and said, look how Spanish people celebrate the Day of the Dead. I believe honoring my fallen brothers with a life worth living. Good information. All right, 7:59 now at News Talk 96.5 KPELP. Coming up on the top of the hour. Thanks, as always, to our friends. Wingin' It Wednesday panelists Stafford, Warren, and Carol. Look forward to seeing you each and every week here. Wednesday, May 30th, 2018. Stay with us on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.